Hey, Val, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you for taking this time out, Val. I know you've got a very busy schedule, and we had to kind of squeeze this in for you because you're pretty busy right now, aren't you?
Very.
And that's a good thing. Uh,
Yep.
and it's a scary thing too, because you just went through training, I think, with us back in was it August or September?
August. Yep.
August, yeah.
August 2014.
And then you got your first client within a short period of time from that, I think.
I got my first client in, by the time I got done with class and set everything up, it was late September. And then, yeah, in December is when I signed my first one.
So you've basically opened up commercial space within what was that? I guess from the time you got your first client, 3 or 4 months.
Yep. We opened up space, what are we in, May now? Yeah, about 2 months ago. So, yeah, just from
Super.
client about 2 months after that.
I think that may be a record. Now, for folks who are watching this, who are still thinking about, whether you want to get into this business, a lot of our licensees don't do that. In fact, most of them do work from their home still.
Mhm.
But sometimes you have extenuating circumstances where you need to get out of the house and you need to grow because you've gotten to that point. So Val, I'm going to start by asking you some real basic questions about your business, and I'm also going to encourage the people who are on here to start typing in some questions. So I'm going to bring up the question box here so I can see that, and I'll kind of monitor that as we go along and ask those questions first. Uh, Oh, here's one right here from Tim. I guess we'll just start right out with this.
Okay.
He says, "Do you find that doctors can be resistant to attempts to displace their own staff? I sense it could be challenging to quote get in the door." Yeah, I mean, let's face it. They think in their mind, if my office manager or maybe somebody else in the office is doing the billing now, I may have to just let them go completely because we've taken away, their job. Now, if that person can be retrained, we teach, how to reallocate the time for that person to help
Right.
the doctor see more patients because that's
Right.
that's really where they make their money, isn't it?
Right. The hardest part is getting past the staff because it seemed like they had in their mind that, okay, if these people come in, I'm going to lose my job.
Yeah.
That was like the number one thing where I would just get like looks right when I walked in the door.
Well, and there may be some out there. Now, I don't know if you've seen some of our webinars recently, Val. I know you're busy, so you probably haven't been attending marketing webinars, but we have Dr. Vicky Rackner
Yeah.
is basically engaged with us now as a retired general surgeon. She used to, outsource her billing and knows what that feel is about that. And she says, believe it or not, Patrick, a lot of those office managers might even be resistant because they don't want the doctor to know,
Hmm.
what they know
Yeah.
about the denial rate and, the rejections and she says, believe it or not, there are some who might even have, you know, committed fraud of some kind. And again, they would be very resistant for the doctor to look into that and have that
Yeah.
taken over by, somebody else. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
possible.
That's yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of it. Like when we just had um he's got a staff of like 4 girls, and we just started the billing on the big group that we signed up, and we're bringing in all we've already started bringing in all this money, and so the staff, so I'm telling them, okay, this is the problem that we're having because the information isn't correct that's coming over to us. So they had to have all these denials as well, but he didn't know about it.
Yeah. No, they'll
Yeah.
they'll keep that from them
Hmm.
if they can because it does affect their, it could affect their job.
Yeah.
So that's interesting because you just signed up. You said a fairly large group. Tell us a little bit about that client.
They are, it's a group of 29 providers, and he was actually a referral from one of my other clients who was a chiropractor. And they had some issues with CMS. They've been doing paper billing this entire time, so they had gotten audited, and they had problems with CMS. And so CMS had put some restrictions on them as to how things had to be set up, or they were going to lose their credentialing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he actually, just started telling me about that. And then, I just took it from there.
You took it that he needed help.
Yeah, yeah. So I just started doing the practice analysis and showing him the difference and the EMRX, how it documents everything. The problems that they were having were they had a lot of NPs and PAs working underneath them, under the MDs. So the documentation was the problem when they would go see patients.
Oh,
So they couldn't keep up on that, and the dates were getting mixed up with the dates that the patient was actually seen to the chart notes were different. So when they got audited, they looked at all of that. And so I told him that, the EMRX is going to be his best bet because it timestamps everything, so there's no to prevent future audits, and the billing is all streamlined. Literally, we had, the paper boxes, the copier paper boxes, they had brought in about 7 or 8 copier boxes full of claims.
oh my goodness.
Like,
So they were doing everything on paper then,
everything was on paper.
and they didn't have an electronic medical record system at all.
Mm-mm. They just did it on, everything was through Excel. So we didn't even have a system to, like dump into the EMRX so we could start. We were building these charts from scratch, like literally everything is from scratch.
Wow. Well, once it's converted over, though, they'll be thrilled to see the cash flow. Or have they seen it already increasing?
Yeah, it's coming in already. Yeah, so they're happy.
I'll bet. Well, that's a good example right there that we tell licensees, look, if you'll just do what we teach you in our training sessions on how to go out and market, if you do a good job for doctors, they all know other doctors, and you got this big account as a referral from your first account.
Yep.
That's great.
Literally, my first one was from my hairdresser. I was just telling her about what I started doing, and she told her friend whose husband was a doctor, and that's how I got my first client.
Now, that's hard for people to believe. I'm glad you have that story to tell, Val, because on these webinars in the past, I've told people that we teach people how to connect with your warm market. In other words, the people you know, just people like your hairdresser,
Yeah.
anybody that you know, because you never know. People know people who know people who know doctors, right? And so that's where your first client came from, was just sitting there talking to your hairdresser. That's a great example of that
Yep.
success.
Literally, that's what it was. After one session, I told her about it, and then 2 days later, her friend called me. And it wasn't the doctor that called me, it was the doctor's wife. She said, "My husband really needs you."
So maybe that doctor's wife came into your hairdresser and somehow
Yeah,
the discussion got
yeah, they were
okay.
fine.
Well, that's a great story.
Yeah.
All right, here's a question from Aubrey. She says, how do you charge out the doctor? Is it basic cost, or I guess she means a flat fee, or a percentage of the monthly collections?
It's the percentage of the monthly collections.
Yeah,
And we've kind of, in just this one, we've kind of noticed that works best because it kind of gives them the feel that you're going to work just as hard to get that money in because you're going to make off of it what you've collected.
right.
So it kind of makes them feel a little bit better that you're going to push a little bit harder to get the money in because you're making money too.
Yeah. Yeah, you've got some skin in the game, don't you?
Yeah,
You want to maximize that revenue because that makes you make that much more money. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And just so folks know, of course, we go over this pretty in detail in the training workshop about the percentages, but it runs, anywhere from 5% to 8%. It depends on the client, the volume, all
yeah.
sorts of factors in there. Uh,
Right.
so, and of course, we help you with that because part of what we do on the back end support for you after the training workshop is to help you with your practice analysis, which Val mentioned earlier. We teach you how to go through that with the doctor's office and find out a bunch of details about it, and then we can kind of help you with a proposal as to what price might go good. You don't want to leave money on the table, but you want to, you don't want to be overpriced either.
Right,
So
right.
there's just the right number. And most licensees, again, Val, you don't have to reveal any exact figures, but I know that a lot of licensees will start out, well, just to get this account, I'm going to go in real low.
Right, right.
And then they regret that later because that doctor is going to tell every doctor that they know what you're charging
Yeah,
them, right?
yeah. That's happened because actually my first one I did go in low because I was just excited about getting my first client, and and he ended up telling his brother, who was also a doctor, that, oh, well, she'll do it at, X%. And then I was like, you can't really, you can't really change it then because,
Yeah,
especially when they're related.
yeah, exactly. All right, let's see. Larry is saying, tell us about the marketing that has yielded you 30 doctors in 9 months. Was that all marketing or referrals? Well, he may have typed that in before we started getting to this. We just kind of explained how you got those clients.
Yeah, it's really referrals. Like, just keep on talking.
Yeah, let
Yeah.
let everybody you know what you
Yeah.
do. And of course, there's kind of an art to that too. You remember, Val, in the workshop, we go through a little elevator pitch, what to say to people, how to make it seem like you're part of a nationwide network that's much larger than, just you working out of your spare bedroom.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, even with the big group, we had to, because there's only two of us, but you literally have to pitch it like well, I have everything is my staff. So
Yeah.
there's a bunch of us here. We have this handled.
Yes, and that's true because when you say I have to get back, I'll have to ask that question to my insurance person back at the office or my IT guy. Well, that's us. That you're part of our network, and ABS has those kinds of people that can provide you any kind of support that you need on the back end. So we are a part of your staff.
Right, right. And
That's
and
kind
it's great. Like,
of that.
yeah, Casey probably gets really tired of me calling.
Oh, in our support department, yeah. Well, we tell our support people, look, the more successful everybody is, the more successful the company is, and it's a win-win. Believe me, we don't
Right.
mind doing whatever support we need to do. Let's see. Tim says, do you provide services for medical doctors and dentists alike? So I can kind of answer that, Val. You know that we don't do billing for dentists, and that's because there's not as many people who have insurance, dental insurance, and dentists just don't see the number of patients that doctors do. So I tell people, look, the medical marketing with all the specialties, there's dozens of them out there, right? It's so huge that once you've signed up all the doctors you need, if you want to do medical billing, we do have software that can allow you to do that. It's just a completely different ball game because they need X-rays attached to the claims, and it's,
Right.
it's not near as fun as the medical billing is.
And people just, like, really don't go to the dentist as much as really they should. Some of them just go when they have a problem,
Yeah,
where, medical is pretty often.
sure. Let's see. John says, what percentage of new customers are new to outsourcing versus currently with a competitor? In other words, from your experience, Val, are there more doctors who are currently outsourcing now, or that do it themselves in their own office? What have you seen?
Uh, they they are outsourcing because there's so many CMS changes, and they just don't have the time and really the staff to keep up with. And a lot of them just are not informed. Actually, this big group that I had no idea that they actually will have to go through and do meaningful use stuff. He was like, no, we don't have to because the nursing home does. And I said, no, it's by provider, not by facility. So yeah, they were going to lose out on a percentage of their income if they didn't do it.
That's right.
So they're just not as informed as they should be. So they're outsourcing.
And when people hear that, they wonder, well, then what market is there if doctors, most of them are already outsourcing? And actually, from everybody we've talked to, it's a good thing because that doctor's already educated. You don't have to educate them on the advantages of outsourcing. All you have to do is show that you have a better way, a better system.
Hmm.
And with our built-in clearinghouse and all the automation that's built into the eligibility checking and so forth, all that's built into our software, which just makes it much, much easier for the doctor to get paid and get
Right.
paid more than they would from most medical billers. Plus, we have 9 other auxiliary services that you can offer as a licensee that your competitors out there don't have. So,
Right. Right.
so folks,
And
oh, I'm sorry.
the some of them are outsourced and some of them still are in-house. Um, eh, what I found is the ones that are outsourced to kind of a smaller billing company that's they've had for 20 years that, oh, well, no, she's done it for a long time and she's really good. And they just, if you could just get in the door and just show them, okay, this is what's changed. I understand she's really good, but there, you can bring in a lot more money than.
Yes, we had a licensee who signed up a doctor who didn't realize that his current biller was still doing it all on paper. She was just mailing in the claims, and some of them are using old, outdated software that installs on your computer. All the patient data is there on that biller's computer in their home or office, and that's very open to somebody steals the computer or the computer crashes. Our cloud-based system eliminates all those worries about that. And yeah, there's some huge advantages, aren't there? Val, have you
Yeah.
ever had have any of our technology people done any demos, the live demos of the system for you?
Yeah, I actually, before I signed on my very first client, I did uh, at least 3 demos to a couple of doctors that were out of the area. And so the more demos you do, the it's actually to push for it is actually better because you keep learning from it every time you do a demo,
Sure.
and you build your confidence each time. Because my first one, I was so nervous.
Yeah.
I was, stuttering, and the second one got a little bit better, and then the third one, I was, you know, an expert at it. I knew everything that was,
Yeah,
you
you
just
get
kind of,
you get better. And yeah, about the third one is usually when most people go, it's no big deal.
yeah,
I know
yeah,
you guys have got it handled because just so people know, she's talking about a live demo of our electronic medical record system and the billing system. We show that all to the doctor so they see the advanced technology that we have, but it's also so that we can answer all their questions. Val, you were just probably on there just watching and listening, and we answer all the questions, didn't we?
yep. I really was, and I just kind of just sat back. The only thing that I was seriously have been amazed with the system is everybody runs their practice differently, and everything is customizable to their practice. So
Yeah.
it
No matter
really,
what kind of specialty they are, we've got customization that can make that work exactly like their current workflow works.
right,
Yeah.
right.
All right. Let's see. Here's a question from Roger: Is a physician if a physician currently utilizes an electronic medical record system of some kind, does EMRX communicate with the existing EMR? You probably haven't had that situation yet, Val, but the answer is yes.
Yeah, I have had that question asked. I think we haven't had that happen to us yet because obviously the first folks were paper and these guys are all paper. But yeah, if it's I can't remember the term right now, HL
Seven.
compliant or something.
Seven.
Yeah,
HL7
HL7
compliant. That's
compliant.
right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So yes, folks, if a doctor is currently using some other system, our system can talk to it. Now there's a fee for that. Behind the scenes, it depends on the system and so forth, but there's a fee that the doctor would pay to get all that data into the system. But a lot of times the doctors are just fine with you just starting from scratch. However, if they've been using the EMRX for a while, they want all that data brought in, of course. Okay. Hey, that reminds me, we haven't really talked a whole lot about your client here that has 29 providers. That one, of course, you're still underway implementing. You've been doing some billing for them, I guess, already.
We started billing for them about 4 weeks ago, just like building the charts and then we've started the training alongside of it, so 2 days out of the week, and I've gone to every single training on my first provider to this one, because this way when they have questions when the training is done and you pretty much trained alongside with them, you don't really have to call support. You can kind of answer it yourself, and it makes you look like you know what you're talking about.
Makes you look like you know what you're talking about, even if you don't, huh?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
you did bring in somebody, you said to me earlier, to help with some of this.
Yeah. So the big group kind of came on really quickly, and I literally, when I called Casey at ABS and told him about it, and I said, Casey, I don't know if I can do this. This is really, it's too fast. It's so big, and I don't know if, am I going to be able to, so he's like, this is a dream client, you have to do this and you'll be fine. And, he kind of, talked me up, and then, so my son, who's actually kind of in between employment then, I recruited him in, and so he's my IT guy and my data entry guy, and he wears a lot of hats right now. But he's been a great help, and he's very cheap because I can pay him when when the money starts coming in from the big group. Yeah. So we actually, at the end of this month is the first time we're going to invoice them.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, you think that'll be a pretty good little invoice?
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I haven't done shopping in a long time.
It's great to see a client get to the point, because it does take a little while, right, for that doctor to see the cash flow coming in and then for you to, actually bill them. Now, have you decided to bill, is it like every other week, or how are you going to do that?
We decided that we were going to do it monthly.
Mm-hmm.
Our agreement is the first one we'll invoice them, and then after that we're doing the ACH account with them. So then we're not having to, run around after them for checks. They've been really, really good. The first two doctors that I had with them were just billing accounts, and as soon as they signed on with the EHR, because the second they invest money into it, then they just want you to okay, when's the training? When are we doing this?
Right.
So before that, they kind of drag their feet a little bit, but once they've written you that check, then they want to see results.
Yes, they expect it to get going fairly quickly. And of course, you're talking about the training is done by us, our technology partners, and ABS put together the training for your doctors. So right. You're really, like you said, just kind of sitting in on that and learning as you go. People wonder how they learn this business in a week down here in Dallas. Well, you really can't learn all that you need to know about medical billing or the software, but you can learn as you go. It's on the job training. And wouldn't you rather be making money while you're learning than to say, okay, I'm going to go to college for 3 years or 4 years and learn everything I need to know and then start a business? You start and you jump in, and I tell people, if you get an account that you feel like you can't handle, we're here to help you. We've got people and resources as a part of our network that can help you with that. So right. Don't ever hesitate to just go out and get a client, and we'll get you up to speed. All right, let's see. Here's John. He says, is it harder, Val, to take a customer away from a current billing company?
I don't.
I guess he means if you go to a doctor and they've already doing billing with another billing company, but we kind of talked about that. The fact that you show them the live demo the doctor makes that decision. I mean, obviously, they wouldn't even take time to see the demo if they didn't think there was something wrong with their cash flow, right?
Right.
So it's all about the cash flow.
There's so many neat features to the demos. This one, the biggest selling point to my big group was that they could run reports and make decisions for, you know, should we bring on, they're thinking about bringing on more providers. So they're just, right now, literally yesterday I had a meeting with them and they're like, okay, so we ran this report and we're trying to figure out, should we bring on more providers because they're growing so fast. And
Yeah.
that's what they liked about it is like there's literally 30 different reports in different ways that they can run to see what the AR is, what's coming in, what's going out, everything. So really, and when I first spoke to him, that his current biller didn't have that because I said, oh, you don't know what's sitting out there or what hasn't paid, and he says, no, he just runs me this Excel report and sends it to me. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was,
Ours is in real time too. In other words, when they run that report, it's showing the exact state of all of their claims and their payments and everything as a snapshot in real time. So
mhm,
pretty cool.
yeah.
Irene says, if a potential client is in another state, is there a way to do the demos remotely? Well, that's basically what we're doing right here. We're using this technology called GoToWebinar, and we use their other technology called GoToMeeting to do those meetings and those demos. So yes, Val, you're in just north of Sacramento, right out in California. So you can be there, and your prospective client, which you may get a referral from a doctor that has a doctor in another state, right? We can do the demo and put it all together technologically, folks. There's no reason why you can't run any business nowadays virtually. You know.
Yeah. Well, my first client, and he referred me to his brother. They were about 3 hours apart. So when we did his brother's training, we did it remotely. I only went to one training with him, but every time that he trained after that, I was on live with him just to make sure that he was getting everything, but I didn't travel 3 hours every time.
Yeah.
And after that, he was fine doing it on his own after he figured it out a couple of times.
Sure. Yeah, it's just wonderful what technology will let you do nowadays. Okay, so Laura and Larry both are asking basically the same question. What kind of doctors is this group? Can you tell us what kind of practice or providers are a part of this big group?
They're internalist, so they're MDs and they have PAs and nurse practitioners under them, and they see nursing home patients.
Right.
So they have like when you're a PA, I mean, yeah, a PA and an NP, you have to have a supervising provider. And so they have about, I think there's 5 or 6 supervising providers, and then everybody underneath them are PAs that go out to the nursing homes and see the patients. And you bill them, they get billed the same rate as an MD does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So RB wants to know, is the percentage on the billing based on the amount collected or the total initial billing? It's on the collected amount.
Collected, yeah.
Yeah. Are you accountable, says Tim, for any regulatory reporting for your doctors?
The system does that for you. There is I was saying earlier that the meaningful use, which is required by almost every physician now. I think there's 15 different questions once they've signed on to the EMRX that they have to answer for each patient. So, and they have to have an electronic signature now, a lot of physical history. So each time that you send out a claim, that gets sent with it. So that you don't have to go out and actually send a separate report to any insurance companies or any governmental agencies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the advantage of being a cloud-based real-time system, isn't it? That data can be shared anytime with anybody, and yeah, it's all built in.
Yeah.
Ralph says, what was Val's background?
I actually worked for a local hospital, and then management changed there, so it wasn't really a fun place to be anymore. And I just kind of took the leap. So when I did the training, I literally had quit my job and decided to jump into this. So after I did my training, I was nervous because we were on one income.
Yeah, and really, when you talk about the codes, even Val, since our system has all those codes built into it now, even the ICD-10, the point is that it's all built in there, so you don't really have to be what we think of as a certified coder, do you?
No, no, not at all. Even actually, some of the, just to compare it to the paper billing that we're doing now, there's maybe 3 or 4 codes that the doctor will write on that, they've diagnosed. But once they go on to the EMRX, it's like they get a little bit excited that there's so many, because it's at the push of a button. So literally we'll see like 10 different, codes for every single thing that's wrong with this person. So we're only like, you don't have to do so many, but yeah, they just have to push a button. You don't have to know anything.
Yeah, you literally, if the doctor uses the electronic medical record system, EMRX, and asks the questions within the system for that particular patient's visit, at the end of that session, after going through the different sections, it suggests the codes that could be used for that visit.
Yeah, and like they can put in there how much time they've spent with the patient, and it'll suggest which code they should bill for. It's super, super user friendly.
Yeah, it's almost like having your own biller, built into the system without having to hire somebody. Because some doctors have in the past hired their own biller coders, and wow, that can get very costly.
Coders are very expensive,
And
yes.
besides, a doctor is generally, or a group, even like you're dealing with, Val, aren't they using just a certain number of codes? Once you've dealt with those dozen or 2 dozen codes, whatever it is, you kind of know those after a while, and they're just second nature to you.
Yeah, actually, my son, a lot of the codes obviously for elderly are pretty much, they have chronic illnesses, so a lot of them are the same. They're diabetes, dementia, that kind of thing is pretty much universal at that age. So he's like, I'll kind of try to figure out, oh, what's this code for? Because we're trying to convert the paper to electronic, and he just throws it out at me like this is what it is because he's written it up so many times now.
Yeah, he's already got it down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you use sales reps to acquire new business? Have you ever thought about hiring sales reps, or you probably didn't need it at this point? You don't need one.
Right. No, I didn't. I actually didn't even look into it. Um, like I said, when I first got done with the training, I did do direct like mailing and to providers. I did walk in. I did everything that the training taught me. Like I just literally went through the check mark and went through everything that was taught to us in training. And the direct walk in, I was a little bit nervous because, like I said, you get the looks because it's the receptionist and then probably the biller sitting behind her. So, they just, I don't know, I just was like, looks could kill. But I just, you just get used, you just get to the point where you just kind of go back. And then, I literally did the little bottle with the M&Ms in it.
Yeah.
That one.
Yeah, they love that, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Just so people know, now Val is talking about what we call direct contact. There is a way to walk into a doctor's office, leave some literature, pick up one of the business cards at the front. You don't really have to confront anybody about anything unless they ask questions, of course, which is a good thing. But there's a dozen other ways that we teach people to go out and do the marketing. So you don't have to be somebody who, if you're afraid to walk into an office and engage with somebody. There's lots of other ways to do that as well, including the referrals that got you your clients.
Yeah.
But we do have a sales rep training program for those who are wondering. We can teach you how to find those people, how to pay them. We have the agreements that you can sign with them, all worked out, of course, and then even how to train those people. Val, I just did an interview maybe 3 weeks ago with a young guy out in Arizona who found a sales rep, and he tells how he found him. But anyway, he was in North Carolina, and that sales rep got him connected with a doctor. They did a demo, and he ended up getting that doctor. Yeah.
Literally, yeah, right place, right time sometimes.
Exactly. Oh, this is Ralph. He says, when doctors sign on, Val, are they signing a contract for a certain number of years?
Um, the I my first one I used just the basic contract that we got at training, and I kind of just customized it to my business, and then just added some clauses in. Most of them are a year, and then it auto renews without, if they don't want to change anything.
Exactly. And you do you have the 30-day out? If one or the other of you decide that you want to give notice in 30 days, they can get out if they want to.
Yeah, for a fee.
Yeah, for a fee. You don't want to lock people in for 5 years or 3 years or even a year. That makes them feel like they're locked in for good no matter what. There's always an out for anything, right? And so I tell
Right,
people, no matter what a contract says, if somebody wants out of it, they'll figure out how to get out of it. And if you're doing a
right.
good job for them and making them money, well, why do they want out?
Right, right. And just, like you'll notice when you're talking to a lot of the doctors, they've had their billers or whoever their billing company is for years and years and years. So once they get you on there, they're really not gonna change that quickly because it takes a little bit of time to just get used to the system, and then once they start seeing the money come in, then you're good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And if you're
Yeah,
not doing a good job, why would you want to lock them into something anyway?
yeah, yeah.
Steve wants to know about the details. It's kind of a long question here, but basically he's wondering what the details are. Did you get a setup fee, for example?
For big group?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did a setup fee, and then I actually did um, I did a setup fee, and I did where they paid the first month's billing fees.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Because by the time that you get their account and then you get them set up and get the insurances all enrolled, it takes about 20 days or so.
Right.
So by the time that you bill, then you have money coming in and you're good.
And was this percentage that you got for this group, did it fall in the 5 to 8% range, or was it a little less?
Yeah, it was, yeah, it's closer, it's about 7.5.
Oh, good.
They negotiate, like I said 8, and they're like, well, how about, we have to buy new computers, and we have to, how about 7.5? And I was like,
Yeah.
all right.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, you always go in a little high anyway, so you get a
yeah.
little leeway there the way we teach you to do that. Deidre says, Val, what made you go with ABS versus another company?
Um, I actually did. I can't remember the name of it now, but they were, why I went with ABS is really, anyways, so he, it, it was a live person that I spoke to, and that's what I liked about it. And the other the other company that I really had to call them a few times and go through a few different hoops to try to really talk to a human. And then so that was one of my biggest things too, is that you really want access to the information. And I did really do my research, and I talked to, I think, 4 or 5 other licensees as well.
Yeah,
And the
that's
others
always
did.
really. We tell people, look, we realize that we could say anything to you, right? I mean, we obviously want you to join our network, just like any company wants to grow by adding new people. But the best people to talk to are people like yourself,
Right.
other licensees who've been to the training, they did their due diligence, they've gone out and got clients, they built a business, they're successful at it, and they can tell you, how good our support is and that kind of thing. So if you haven't talked to people and you're on this webinar, then just ask your ABS rep for a list of those people, references. We rotate through some of our licensees who are willing to take some of those calls from time to time.
I think the latest one I've bugged over there is probably Casey, but he was so good. I mean, literally, I think I heard him a few times, like getting out of his car, and he still took, I was like, sorry, it's me again.
Yeah, I know. He even gives out his cell number. He's a pretty brave guy. Okay,
Yeah.
let's see. There are lots of questions here that I'm going to address, Val, after we kind of wrapped up here. I'm going to let you go here pretty quick, but there is a couple of them on here that are directly to you. Got just a few more minutes?
Uh-huh. I'm
Okay.
fine.
Here's one by Lynn. She says, how much money did you need to invest before you were ready to speak to doctors? Maybe
I
she's talking about marketing expenses.
really not much at all. I used the flyers that we got in the actually the box that was delivered to the house from ABS, and I customized that kind of myself. I didn't like write on it, but I just got like labels and put my information on the back of it. And after that, I think I gave those out. I ordered one more set of them and just used those as mailers. And the only other thing I did was order business cards.
Yeah. So what would you say? Under $500?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, people included in the package that we send to you, like Val said, is over 2,000 pieces of marketing material. So some licensees don't even go through that before they get their first client. But if you do run out, of course, you can reorder those at our cost. Um, um, Lynn says, "Why did you choose to have an office?"
Um, I can't concentrate much at home. Like we have, it just depends. If you have a quiet household, I guess it's easier to work. We have so many dogs, and the second somebody walks down the street, they're just barking away. And I think my youngest is 15, so he gets home from school about 3. And it was just harder for me to concentrate at home than it was at the office. And I got a really, really good deal on the office. So um, I took it. And literally, when I got my first client, all I had was my laptop. I didn't even have a desktop at the time.
Yeah, that was one of the other questions. What hardware is required? Literally, it boils down to this. If you've got a computer, if you're watching this webinar, you probably have all the hardware you need, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a cloud-based system, it doesn't take a lot of memory or a lot of storage space because you're not storing anything on your computer. So just about any computer will work for this. And it's nice to have a phone, of course,
Yep.
which most people do. Lynn says, what is your marketing budget monthly?
I don't have one right now because I didn't really do any other marketing besides that, besides the flyers that we got from ABS. And then I ordered another set of them only because I wanted my logo on them, not because I was out of them. And then that I haven't had to, it was just my mouth, really. That's a marketing.
Yeah.
I just kept on talking.
So Julie, I think we answered your question here. How much do you think you have spent on direct marketing? We said earlier maybe less than $500 for everything, including your business cards. And did you have any success with it? If so, which worked best? Well, I think what's worked best for you, Val, if I've gotten from our conversation here, it was basically just using your warm market to tell your hairdresser, for example, that's how you got your first doctor. And then that doctor gave you a referral. So folks, it really doesn't take a whole lot of marketing after you get the first doctor. I mean, it will just grow organically.
Yeah, it really does. There's a lot. I didn't believe it when I was in training, but when I went out and literally you can't hit everything that's out there.
Yeah, no, you can't. It's too big a market, isn't it? It's just lots and lots of doctors, and a lot of them need help and don't even realize that. We have to educate them a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. I've actually talked to a lot of the folks that were in my training class because we still do emails amongst ourselves because I was like, well, let's just try to be the best training class that gets the most clients, trying to get everybody riled up. And so I send them out little hint, like little things that will help them. That's helped me get, my first client and kind of catch up with everybody to see where everybody's at.
Yeah. Well, we'll make this recording of this available to your whole class, and so they'll kind of know where you're at least. Uh, let's see. I got a few other questions here, but the last one I'm going to wrap up with you, Val, is this: how long before you will be able to step away? This is from Russell. to step away from the data entry side and hire data entry personnel?
I'm actually interviewing one as soon as we get done here.
Oh, super. Okay.
Yeah. So we've started training the providers on the EMRX side of it, so that'll stop the paperwork flow of it. So then once we get all of those in, which is about 6,500 claims still to do, and so once that's done, then everything is electronic, and that's super, super easy.